So this video is now going deeper into the pixel and going into a bit more of an advanced space. So, the first thing about the pixel is the data that's sent from a pixel is filling your ad account with information. So, as we've seen before, the pixel exists when you create an ad account. So a pixel does not exist without an ad account, but you can share pixels to multiple ad accounts, and as part of our account structure recommendations, I'm hoping that's something you've picked up on. But the pixel, being a data collector, gives you lots of opportunities to do other things as well. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I do a bit of kind of analysis and diagnostics in Events Manager to find any opportunities or any problems, how I also do some advanced tracking as well, and how you can use that on your ad account, and creating custom conversions and audiences, which is such a cool way when you start to pull out additional data on what's happening on your page, on your website. You can do some really cool things in terms of tracking what people are doing and also creating audiences as well. So this example here is an e-com store which has multiple custom conversions as well as some standard events as well. So, go through the pixel basics training, understand the difference between standard events and custom events. Standard events are just what Facebook set up by standard, like view content and page view. Custom events would be something like 15 seconds on page, things like that. And we'll go through that shortly as well. Now, when you go into the pixel section and you click into a pixel, so Events Manager, and you look at a pixel, this is the kind of screen that you see back. Now, Facebook do update this often, and it might look slightly different for you, but generally it's the same. And what you can do here is you can click the drop down and have a look at different pixel events and see how many are firing, and just see if that kind of makes sense to where you are and where your business is. Especially if you just installed a pixel and you've got some ads running, or you've just got some traffic already, you can have a look at that as well. You can run diagnostics and test events as well, and have a look at whether your pixel's working. But what I wanted to show you here is Facebook also picks up errors as well. So one of the biggest frustrations I have with a lot of people with their ad accounts is they fly blind to what's happening with the actual tech stuff. Now, for some of you, it may be a bit daunting to come in here and kind of have a look at all this, and there's so many things going on. But at the very basics, just make sure the pixel is working and it's firing correctly. So for example, on this ad account, this is the purchase pixel. It's an e-commerce store. Purchase pixel is pretty important. It's important for us to optimize our ad account. It's important for Facebook to collect the data on the kind of audiences and what's working. And obviously, we want to make sure there's no problem for our customers as well. And you can click on that, and Facebook will tell you as kind of what's going on and kind of how many instances and all that kind of stuff. So this particular issue is external ID parameters sent in incorrect data fields. So it's not the end of the world. This pixel will be firing properly, so it's not a problem, but it's happening quite a lot. And what you can do here is just find the problem and solve it. I would go in now and just find the problem and solve it. You can email a developer the problem and get that resolved. The other cool thing you can do is it gives you a bit of deeper information onto kind of how many times that's been going on. So you can kind of look at the date period, you can look at the breakdown, you can look at activities to see which exact pages that's firing from. And then one of the other cool things is you can see which ad sets are actually using that in terms of optimization or targeting. This is important because if that pixel is not working and you're optimizing, in this case for purchase, for example, then your data is not going to be optimized, you're not going to get stability, etc., etc. So, this is really important just to keep an eye on. We get our teams to check in, depending on the size and spend of the account, once or twice a week. For a lot of you, if you're doing anywhere upwards of 5K a day spend and things are doing okay, check in at least once, on average once a week. Maybe every other week is fine as well. But at the very least, do a monthly check and just make sure everything in your pixel is working. So that's just one thing about the pixel itself, and making sure the pixel is working correctly. So you can go and browse your website and use Chrome's Pixel Helper tool and make sure everything's firing, and we covered that off in the basics. But I would also come here and just check that everything's working. And one of the cool things it does tell you is when the last activity was received. So for example, if you're looking at the purchase pixel event and you generate 10, 20 sales an hour or something like that, and if for any reason this says last received was more than an hour or more than 30 minutes ago, could be that the pixel's broken. I've seen it many times where everything seems fine, for some reason your ad account stability now goes all over the place, and you dig deeper and you find out that a developer installed something and it's not the Facebook pixel out. I've seen this too many times, and it is massively frustrating because you could be sitting there in Ads Manager and just looking at your ROAS burning away. Your spend is your spend has continued, but your CPA has increased, your ROAS has dropped, sales have dropped through, and your immediate instinct is Facebook's not working. But many times Facebook is working. Sometimes it's the pixel. So just have a look at that and make sure that you're aware how to do your analysis and where to go for this as well. It's in the menu in your Ads Manager. Go into Events Manager, select your pixel, and just do some analysis on whether it's working. So that's the first part of, I guess, the more kind of advanced side of the pixel. The second part, which I want to share with you, is then setting up custom pixel events. And I'll use an older page of mine here to give you an example. Now, with this particular page, what we created was a long form sales page. So it's a sales page for a digital product. It's a long page. So if you scroll all the way down, there's a lot of content down the page. What I wanted to know was, where were people scrolling? And I used a percentage to look at, have they scrolled to 25% of the page, 50%, 75, and 100. I used Google Tag Manager to automatically generate this. So within Google Tag Manager, and there's a link below for this as well, you can install some code on your site and then through Google Tag Manager fire certain events when, for example, this default behavior happens. So Google Tag Manager is actually tracking this page, and it will fire an event when that event happens, which is 25%, 50%, etc. And I'll show you that in action here. So here's the pixel event here, and as I kind of scroll down, if this works, then I should see events firing, which are going to tell me where people are going. So there we go. So this has scrolled to 25% of the page, and this event has now fired. So it's just a simple event. There's no additional data that we're sending to say scroll 25. And then if I go further down, then you'll get scroll 50, scroll 75, etc., etc. It's a bit slow in responding. There. So I scrolled a bit too fast, so it's got a bit confused. All the way down to the bottom. Now, one of the cool things about this, if I just kind of, this is useful, and if you go all the way down to the bottom, it gets scrolled to 100. Now, there's two real core reasons why I wanted to know this. Number one, when it comes to retargeting people that have viewed this page, if I know, for example, and this is also quite an advanced technique, I know that if you just scroll to 25% of the page and not to the 50, you haven't seen the price yet. If you get to the 50% scroll, you've seen the price of the product. If you get to 75%, you've seen testimonials and things like that. And if you get to 100, you've seen the whole page. We've structured this page in such a way that I can now build retargeting audiences based on what you've done. So if someone hasn't reached the 25 mark yet, then I could retarget them with another ad angle or something like that, or maybe even not retarget them and just include them in our top of funnel cold. If you've reached the 25% part but not the 50%, and I know you've not seen the price, I can look at that content and start making kind of think about ideas as to why you've not scrolled past that. So something in my ad, in my landing page up until that point has not convinced you enough to get all the way to buying the product, for example. So I want to break down those barriers. If you got to 75%, you've seen the testimonials. So in my retargeting ads, I may or may not choose to use testimonials. If you've got to the 100%, then you're a pretty hot prospect potentially. But also bear in mind, just like I did just now, it could be people that just scrolled all the way down just to see the page and maybe not even looked at the page properly. So there's different things that I'm going to test in my retargeting ad. So that's on the one side on performance. The other side is I can also create custom audiences based on what's lookalike audiences based on what your action is. So let's say now we've set up retargeting audiences based on people scrolling to 25, 50, 75, 100%, and we know that anyone that scrolled 50% is highly likely to convert. They're converting highly, they're great users, etc. Now I want to create a lookalike of anyone that scrolled this page at least 50% because I know they're really, really prime users. That for me is super powerful. So, and this works for e-com, it works for info as well. It works for any lander. If you can remove the people who are just bouncing and browsing and not going down your page, you can improve your retargeting, you can improve your ROAS, your CPA, etc. Because here's the thing, not everyone that goes to your website should be retargeted. It's really important to understand that. So if you take a physical example, if you go into a shopping mall and then you walk into a store, you have a quick look around and walk out, you're not really someone that a salesperson wants to try and bring back in, because you might be just window shopping. You might have just walked into the wrong shop, for example, and things like that. If, for example, you've walked into the store and you've walked into a few different sections or aisles, and you spent, let's say, 30 seconds, 45 seconds walking around, and then you're about to walk out, that's the point that a salesperson should stop you and say, hey, can I help you with anything? That's the way to look at retargeting ads. So in my case, if you've scrolled to 25%, I want my salesperson to stop you and say, hey, is there anything I can do for you? That's what my retargeting ad does. Same for e-com. If you're running e-com, you send traffic to a sales page and you're retargeting everyone that hits that sales page, chances are you're also retargeting people that are not going to buy anyway. They're just browsing, maybe hit the link incorrectly, or they just had a look and it's not the right product for them. Don't retarget them. You can also install the thing about this is it's as far as your imagination and ideas go. So I've used scroll events, A, because I wanted to, B, because it's super easy to install using Google Tag Manager. You can also use time on page. 15 seconds, as you saw earlier, 30 seconds, 45. You can increment that at a certain time. You could use other triggers as well. It really depends on kind of what you're doing. I'll give you an example. When we were when we first set up our webinar, we wanted to track people based on how long they've spent on the webinar. So the webinar was 90 minutes, and we set a trigger to fire, I think it was every 5 minutes. So I could tell someone that's been on that page for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, etc. Now you could argue that were they actually watching the webinar, and that's absolutely fine. But that's the way we did it at that point in time. And so I could see people that, for example, if they got to the 45, 50-minute mark on this webinar, I knew they'd seen the offer, and therefore my retargeting ads could be quite different to get them to come back and have a look at the offer, for example. If they'd exited at, let's say, 30, 40 minutes or less, then I know they haven't really been through the full webinar. Maybe I try and get them into an email, onto a call or something like that. So it gives us options of what to do. So do think about how you can enrich that pixel. There are external tools out there as well. There's lots of tools that allow you to do this automatically, both within platforms like WordPress and Shopify, and also third-party platforms where you can install some code. Or, like me, you can just do it yourself. You just need Google Tag Manager. The links are below on how to get started with GTM and some ideas behind how to get that running as well. Now, when you take that back to your events manager, there's two cool things that you can do here to then take that data and do stuff with it. So, first of all, collecting the data is one thing. So, scroll 25, scroll 50. Collecting that data is useful and it's good, and you should be doing that. And now with the data there, I can optimize my ad sets for that, but I can't track that as a conversion until I create that event. So for example, now if I look at my custom event and I go scroll 25, now I can create this. So I can say people that have scrolled 25%. I can select a category. For me, it's view content, so I would find that as the category there. There's no value there. You could put value, for example, but I don't want to. And then I would create that event, and that becomes available in my ads reporting. So I can report and see how many people are getting there. And I can also set that up for optimization in my ad set. However, I run this scroll 25, so this is one of my pixels. I run multiple pixels and ad accounts. But this fires on multiple URLs. So I might want to say, right, only fire this on this particular URL because I'm not interested in other URLs. I can pull that URL out, for example, I can copy it, I can paste it, and then drop that in and say only fire it on this, and then I could call it Scroll 25 CBO Cookbook page, whatever. So I know it's exactly that one. So there's different ways of creating that event. So that's really cool. The second thing is you can also create a custom audience and lookalikes from this as well. So I could create a custom audience that says people that have scrolled to that event in 30 days. You can also look at frequency as well, which is pretty cool. So if someone scrolled to 25 and been on that page twice, then maybe they're a higher value customer. You can do that on many different events as well. So you could say people that have hit the purchase page twice in the last 30 days, or people that have added to cart more than twice in 15 days. So when it comes to building retargeting audiences, for example, you don't just have to look at the linear path of, okay, someone's added to cart, so I'm going to retarget them with my best ads. You could segment that further, especially if you've got a lot of traffic, and say, if someone's added to cart twice in the last 7 days, then I'm going to give them this because they're more interested, or maybe the cart value is going to be higher because they're looking at multiple products. Or you could say, I want to create a custom audience of people that have, I think this goes up to 180, yeah. So if you say people that have purchased more than X times in the last 180 days or last 90 days, they could be high value customers. It might not be the case that you want to target them through a custom audience, but maybe you create a lookalike of them. So, some people will do it through their CRM data. So they'll look at emails and say, let's pull a list of people that bought more than X times, or spent more than this much money, or whatever it is. But you can also do it through the pixel, and I recommend doing it through both. And the reason is, if you're just using emails to create your lifetime value customers, high value customers, etc., not everyone's email will match up with their Facebook profile. And I would conversely also say, don't just use the pixel, because sometimes the pixel doesn't track. So absolutely use both where you can. So if one of your cohorts is people that have bought more than 2 times in the last 90 days and you want to create a lookalike from that, create it in the pixel and also create in your email data, and test those and see which works. You can combine them together, for example, as well. So hopefully that gives you an insight into kind of how powerful the pixel can be and how to use that. It doesn't matter what your product is, your niche, what you're selling, what your goal is. The pixel is so powerful if you can set it up in the right way. At the very least, if you've got long form sales pages or you've got a product page that's fairly long, just use the scroll extension and start getting some data into kind of how people are scrolling. Use that for retargeting, for custom audiences and lookalikes, and you'll see far better data come through. And that's going to be only limited by your imagination. So have a think about what makes sense for you. Scroll is one of my preferences. Obviously, it's not foolproof. Some people do scroll fast. Same goes with video remarketing as well. So if you're running a video ad, you can retarget people based on 25% view, 50, etc. Doesn't mean they've watched 25% of the video. It just means they've hit that marker. And the same goes for your landing page. So it doesn't mean that if someone hits this 25% mark, they've actually slowly read that page. But here's the thing, if I then install time on page and I combine the two together, now we get an idea of what's going on. So if I say I want people that have scrolled to 25% and have spent at least 30 seconds on the page, because I could set that up as a custom event as well, now I'm building up a better picture. So this is not someone who's just quickly scrolled the page. This is someone who's actually taken the time to read the content, especially when I go down to scroll 75, scroll 100. If I add a time element to this, now I can see people who are actually engaged. So if I retarget them, create lookalikes from that, the quality is going to be higher. So the advanced side of pixel management is not going to be for everyone, but if you want to get to kind of eke out even better results and better performance, it's definitely worth thinking about what you can do to enhance that pixel data and really enhance your results as well.